Now to this state's election campaign, and already it's shaping up to be one of the most brutal in Queensland's history. The gloves are now well and truly off, with Anna Bligh's extraordinary attack on Campbell Newman, suggesting he could go to jail over family business dealings. In this special report, Tim Avia has been given exclusive access to the Premier and the man who wants her job.
One of these two is going to be the boss of our state.
Are you a fan of Lady Gaga?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So, here they are. As you've never seen them before. It's 6 a.m. and Anna Bligh is waging the daily fight for her political life. Can you imagine hitting Nick Campbell?
No, not like that, but I do think about, you know, got to be strong, got to fight. But I don't think about it personally, about that.
Personal or not, the polls say Anna Bligh's Labor will be annihilated by Campbell Newman at the election. We've been given rare inside access to the Premier as she fights to keep Queensland's top job.
By the third rep, we start to sound like tennis players, Tim.
Her new morning routine starts with a gruelling series of exercises. It's a program created by personal trainer Lee Susi, a man determined to inflict as much pain as possible.
Stop pushing me down.
Keeping up isn't easy, some might say impossible.
I'm defeated.
Then there's the boxing.
No, I'm not about to punch the Premier.
Just swing.
Okay, to swing together.
Yeah, swing, straight up. I'm in the zone.
Security guard's over there.
And go.
He's a bit bigger than...
Training's over in a painful 45 minutes, but the day has only just begun.
I can't remember last time we had people over.
Really?
Very good. It's always too early.
Breakfast at the Blighs is a standing-up affair.
It's quick. Quick and healthy. That's the way we'd sort of describe it, wouldn't we, Anna?
Yeah, not a lot of time. Grab and go.
It's busy, but at 7:30 on the dot, the Premier's support team are outside.
She's forgetful of her phone. And last thing I want is to get stuck with the Premier's phone.
Keep them coming back.
Where's John? We're going to get behind.
By 8, Anna Bligh's at work in her personal office.
So not everyone gets to come in here?
No.
No. They're very comfy
It is
chairs.
a lovely office.
It's meeting after meeting setting out the day and the endless flooding in the west of the state.
We've got the aircraft on standby to go from the Gold Coast.
Staff scurry around the expansive headquarters, bringing in the latest news. The first trip for the day is to the Gold Coast, and it's filled with phone calls and paperwork. The Burleigh police station has to be reopened, and then it's off to Q1.
The floods this time, and last time I saw you, we were all flooded.
It's the launch of the Indigenous All-Stars NRL match, a time to mix with businessmen and footballers.
You've already been the king of Suncorp Stadium, you wouldn't want to be Premier Lockyer as well?
No, mate, I think, I guess too many people to answer to, really.
It's time the LNP, every member of it, came clean on this issue.
While this event is actually about the football, the media really just want to ask about the flood inquiry. And Anna Bligh just really wants to talk about how bad the LNP is.
Well, I'm starving. Unlike you, I haven't eaten at every event. I've had nothing yet.
Lunch is in Anna Bligh's electorate in South Brisbane. It's there we get talking about the most difficult aspects of being Premier. For her, it's the constant online rumours and abuse.
Do you worry about your family reading that sort of
Oh, look, I think you always worry about your family. It's a lot to ask, particularly of my kids. You know, they're two boys who really support what I'm doing, but there have been a couple of things that have happened. You know, it's in the past now, but, you know, it's just very invasive.
She's not short of support in her own electorate, where she was planning to spend the afternoon. But plans suddenly change.
Where are we going?
We're going to Charleville. I've spoken to the mayor. It now looks like it will be worse than we originally thought this morning. So we're going to head out there. If it's okay with you guys, we're staying at the mayor's house. So if you're happy to bunk down...
We'll come along for the ride.
Within an hour, we're on the plane heading west, eating an in-flight meal of party pies.
Everyone calls you boss. Who came up with that name?
I think they did. I think for the people I work with every day, Premier's a bit formal.
1 hour later, we're in Charleville, with enough daylight left for a quick tour of the rising floodwaters. Then it's back to Mayor Mark O'Brien's place for a steak. With no accommodation available, the Premier's friend is housing and feeding her team. and finding beds for a TV crew tired after a long day at work. At first light, Anna Bligh is up around town. With water spreading across the state, it's a chance to show the leadership that rescued her popularity after last year's floods. And sure enough, there's an unwelcome surprise waiting for Anna.
Hey Tim.
Campbell, how you going?
Good to see you.
How's things?
Yeah,
what are you up to?
Oh, just here to show a bit of solidarity with the people of Charleville and my good friend Howard Hobbs. Hi Premier, how are you today?
When you see Campbell, what do you think goes through your head? Is it just a wave and get out of there, or stop and say hello?
Oh, look, I'm here working, so, be polite, say hello, but get on with what I've got to do. Yeah.
Tours and surprises over, it's back to Brisbane for a last interview to talk about the money spent in government scandals like Queensland Health.
If you had a builder working on your home, wasting your money in a similar fashion, would you sack them?
I think it's important to remember that during my term as Premier, we have faced the biggest financial disaster in the world.
That's got nothing to do with those three issues.
Well, I don't agree. We've faced the biggest global financial crisis around the world and then been hit by the biggest natural disaster in Australia's history. There's never been a Premier of our state that's had to deal with those two things in such a short period of time. And has it knocked us around? You bet it has. But are we up to it? Absolutely.
So would you sack the builder?
I don't accept the analogy. I think there have been
Queensland Health would accept it.
I think that what happened in Queensland Health's payroll is absolutely unacceptable. I made that clear at the time, and I apologise to staff. And what we've done is invest in improving the system so that it now works, and that's what's happened.
It's the crack of dawn and Campbell Newman is pounding the streets of Brisbane. I'm along for the run, but the former Army engineer takes no prisoners.
So if you never got up this early in the Army, is being opposition leader harder than being in the Army?
Yeah, obviously.
It's a daily 10k jog.
You set a decent pace up here.
We're almost there.
Unfortunately, not everyone can do it in under 50 minutes.
Well, why don't you stop?
Sorry. You guys go.
Welcome to life behind the scenes for the man many hope will be Queensland's next leader. It's a hectic lifestyle, and we've been given exclusive access to find out about the real Campbell Newman.
Who organises the breakfast in the mornings most days?
Oh, it's help yourself.
Is it?
Help yourself right here.
Every man for themselves in the kitchen?
Survival of the fittest.
The Newman household is orderly confusion. Wife Lisa.
That's yours, darling.
Thank you.
It's a bit hot.
And daughters Rebecca and Sarah organised themselves, followed around by dog Ollie.
We actually took him to the vet because we thought he was sick, but it actually turns out that he had an anxiety problem with the bush turkeys.
You a fan of Lady Gaga?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And studying the newspapers. Today there's an opinion piece about him, and he's not a fan.
So if you're not happy about that article, do you kick up a fuss to him, or...?
No, suck it up.
Suck it up and move on?
But hopefully you'll screen this little bit to air. So Mr. Johns, go and read the policies before you write stuff like that.
The anger's short-lived. It's time to go.
Well, we better get going.
The day's an endless procession of entries and exits, stopping in for backroom strategy meetings.
So they're just pretending to be nice and cuddly
and the all-important moment of facing up to the press. Feeding the chooks, as Premier Joe called it.
Given the scrutiny you're under in front of all the media, do you ever get nervous doing these things?
Always. And I think
even though you've done them so often?
Yeah, been doing it now for 10 years, but you're always nervous.
The event's a launch for the party pledge truck.
And I'm quite happy for Queenslanders to judge me accordingly. I mean, it's up to them.
And the questions start flying.
Now, Campbell needs to be used to this because when the election campaign's on, all these guys are following him around in planes, cars, buses, and if he puts a foot wrong, you'll know about it. How do you think you went? A few tough ones?
Well, there are a few tough ones. I guess you never know, actually, until what happens on the news that night.
I think one thing that people always wonder about when they see politicians interviewed is why are there always people staring over your shoulder? Do you ever think it looks a bit silly?
Yes, it does on some occasions. What that's about, I think, is it's about giving candidates the opportunity to get their mugs on the screen.
It's true, the LNP candidates believe they've found a saviour after 14 years in the political wilderness. But is the saviour a dictator.
Sometimes you hear stories that you're a bit of a control freak.
Oh, look, the first thing is that comment is what my opponents say. So the bottom line is that is the Australian Labor Party's line about Campbell Newman.
In the afternoon, there are stops to small businesses to shore up support, and then he's off to a women's supporters lunch. Outside, he takes a call from head office about the press conference.
Well, that wasn't bad, was it?
It's the never-ending cycle of politics, analysing each media performance.
Well, that's what I kept on saying. At one stage in the press, I said something like, look.
Inside, it's hugs and smiles, and that's not just the ladies.
He's really nice. Nice and firm.
And there's still time in the day to zip down to the Gold Coast for another meet and greet before returning home for dinner, where there's a fierce debate. This time, who's the best cook?
Yeah, good spaghetti bolognese. If you ask me, you're going to start about 2 hours beforehand. It's got to simmer and simmer and simmer.
Something's simmering, but it might not be the spaghetti.
The dinner conversation is all about Dad on the 6 p.m. news.
Did you see the sweat pouring off me?
No.
Oh, she was...
And before bed, there's still more phone calls, more paperwork, and a serious talk about his already turbulent run for Premier.
Since you've become opposition leader, there's been a few controversies, LNP party leaders losing it at candidates, you've had dirt files exposed. If you're struggling to control your party now, how are you going to run the state properly?
Well, at the end of the day, every political party does have problems along the way, and I acknowledge what's happened over the last sort of 9 months, but I say to people we've got a very strong, capable team.
Some people have a perception that while you're a strong leader, your cabinet's very weak. Do you accept that?
Look, I accept that they haven't had experience in government. Well, only a few have. But I have had 7 years' experience as a Lord Mayor of Brisbane.
But you can't be there every day to babysit them.
No, and if they get to be the government and become ministers, of course they'll make mistakes.
5 a.m, a new day and time for a new run. With just weeks until the election, Campbell Newman knows he could soon be running the state.
Right. Thanks yesterday.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I think if you lose the election, it won't be through a lack of stamina.
Okay.
And this Sunday is the official start to the election campaign. Voters go to the polls, of course, on March 24th.